The offer they couldn't refuse, selling the impossible inside CIA. The photographs hit the table like evidence in a trial. A torn hull, a debris tail, depth scribbled in the margin, 16,000 plus. The room at Langley was small on purpose. Fewer chairs meant fewer people could say they knew. A CIA program manager laid out the case in sentences that didn't waste breath. The location is confirmed. The Soviets searched the wrong grid. The target holds nuclear weapons and potentially code materials. Opportunity window unknown. Then the sentence that bent the room. We think we can take a piece of it. Every head went to the same problem. The ocean wasn't the only adversary. The Soviet Navy would park a trawler on that spot the minute they sensed a recovery. The solution needed to be self-explaining. A big ship sitting still in the middle of nowhere had to look like it belonged there. Intelligence officers live in cover stories. This one had to carry the weight of a city. Someone said the word mining. Deep-sea nodules were on magazine covers. A billionaire could bankroll a fantasy. Howard Hughes' name floated up because it always did when audacity needed a face. If Hughes wanted to go dig up the bottom of the ocean, the world would nod and ask about profit margins. If he wanted to build a ship the size of a football field with a hole in the middle, well, that's how you get rocks off the seafloor, isn't it? The pitch deck, from a CIA office that never admitted it wrote pitch decks, paired romance with math. Cover, a program to harvest manganese nodules for strategic metals. Plausibility, white papers model nodules, a projected market curve. Engineering, a collector lowered on strings of pipe through a center well, nodules funneled up into a giant hold. Reality, replace nodules with a Soviet submarine. Replace the collector with a capture vehicle the size of a house, a claw built to wrap around fractured steel. Replace the hold with a hidden dry dock sealed off from view. The phrase moon pool made it sound nautical. In the drawings, it looked like a throat swallowing secrets. They walked the chain of command through the hurdles. Dynamic positioning to hold station in swell. A gimbaled platform to isolate the lift from roll and pitch. Heave compensation so the sea couldn't snap a 3-mile string like a whip. A pipe handling system to add 60-foot sections one by one, sending the claw down slowly enough to keep the load steady and fast enough to beat weather. At the bottom, Clementine, a capture device with fingers to conform to a distorted hull. The engineering team would need time and money, and a new tolerance for sleep deprivation. Then they put up the slide that always changes the conversation. What's the price? The estimate made the oxygen thinner, hundreds of millions of dollars, real, not padded, with a risk column that used words like unprecedented. But the value column held items that never go on the open market. Insight into Soviet warhead interfaces, metallurgy samples across hull frames, sonar-emitting devices and their mounts, possible code materials if the right compartment came up, a literal Soviet nuclear weapon if one of the torpedoes rode with it. Even a partial haul could recalibrate assumptions across the Pentagon. Pushback came in two flavors. The first was practicality. If the claw failed, the wreck could shred, and the world would be watching a mystery ship do something it couldn't explain. The second was diplomacy. If the Soviets caught them in the act, they wouldn't shrug. The answers were about timing and optics. Build the cover so thick it could take a hit. Compartment the crew so only those who needed to know could blow it. Manage satellite passes. Control port calls. Create shell corporations and lease agreements that routed through Hughes's orbit, where opacity was a feature. There was a human moment that stuck. A senior officer asked what they'd do if they found bodies. The engineer leading the brief didn't blink. We treat them with respect, he said. That answer earned a nod that was more than courtesy. The mission might be about hardware, but everyone in the room had seen the photos. This was a grave. The approvals moved like a relay. Technical intelligence signed on because this was the only road to certain answers. Operations signed on because the cover was strong and the talent existed to run it. Legal and liaison drafted language for the day reporters asked pointed questions. We can neither confirm nor deny. It sounded like a dodge because it was, but it protected the fact of the operation without lying about details. The Hughes approach began quietly, behind lawyers and handlers, sheltered by his reputation for grand projects, and disappearing acts. Meanwhile, contractors got phone calls that didn't mention the word submarine. Global Marine would design and build the ship, Hughes Glomar Explorer, under the mining banner. Aerospace-grade hydraulic firms would work on a platform that wasn't for space and couldn't be for oil. Steel would be ordered that didn't fit any catalog's category. The plan wasn't a drawing anymore. It was a list of shipments and a workforce on rotating clearances. One last question hung at the edge of the map. What if they succeeded? The answer was a set of contingencies: how to handle radiation, how to quarantine recovered items, how to move sensitive gear off the ship without a parade. The cover was robust enough to let them sail without everyone staring. The engineering, if it held, could do what no one had done. The risk was terminal if they slipped. The offer, in the end, wasn't money or fame. It was a chance to open a sealed room in a rival's house. Inside Langley, that was the offer they couldn't refuse. The perfect cover, Howard Hughes and the ocean mining fantasy. They needed a face that could make the impossible look merely eccentric. Howard Hughes fit like a glove. He'd built planes that shouldn't have flown, funded projects that didn't pencil out, and vanished when scrutiny got too close. If Hughes said he wanted to mine the deep ocean for manganese nodules, the press would gawk, scientists would argue, and everyone would accept one thing: only a ship unlike any other could do it. The pitch to his orbit was simple on the surface and labyrinthine underneath. Global Marine would build a revolutionary vessel, Hughes Glomar Explorer, to harvest polymetallic nodules from abyssal plains. The business case wrote itself: nickel, cobalt, manganese, copper, strategic metals for a space-age economy. A collector would ride a long pipe string down through a moon pool, an internal well in the center of the ship, scoop nodules, and pump them up like slurry to giant bins. The animations showed tidy pellets streaming up a pipe. The real drawings replaced pellets with a broken submarine. Secrecy needed frictionless plausibility. Contracts flowed through shell companies with names that sounded like holding firms. Engineering teams got slices of the elephant. A dynamic positioning system here, a gimbaled platform there, hydraulic heave compensation somewhere else. Nobody saw the tusks and trunk in one view unless they had the clearances. If a foreman asked why the center well had gates big enough to swallow a house, the answer was to create a dry work bay safe from waves while handling mining gear. In truth, those gates would close around a Soviet bow section, hiding it from every eye and lens on the ocean. Hughes's mystique did heavy lifting. He didn't give interviews. He didn't do tour. A project for Mr. Hughes could insist on strange requests and be indulged. Reporters sniffed around and found just enough to print. A 618-foot ship designed for long-duration expeditions, with a novel center well, a derrick for pipe handling, an endurance of roughly 100 days, and a slow, steady speed ideal for mowing the seabed. Investors and rival drillship operators peered at the renderings and nodded. It looked like a mining ship if you didn't know what mining ships looked like. The cover had to do more than deflect curiosity. It had to survive collision with official inquiry. Lawyers inside Langley and outside, working for Hughes's maze of companies, drafted stock phrases for congressional staffers and nosy editors. The line that would become famous got polished early. We can neither confirm nor deny. It wasn't theater. It was a legal stance designed to avoid admitting the existence of a classified program while responding to freedom of information demands. The seed of the Glomar response was planted before the ship ever touched water. While that was happening in drafting rooms, steel met sparks. In Lowe's Angels and along the coast, fabrication bays turned out parts that read like science fiction. The center well's massive doors, the inner gimbal platform, a floating stage that could isolate the heavy lift system from roll and pitch. The hydraulic cylinders that would push and ease a load measured in millions of pounds, smoothing out heave so the sea couldn't snap the pipe string like a metronome gone mad. The ship grew in sections, then as a whole, a 50,000-plus-ton tool pretending to be a laboratory. There were human moments that kept the cover breathing. A PR man brought a bucket of real nodules to a briefing and thumped them on the table like apples. A naval architect, sworn to secrecy, explained to his teenage son why moon pools were cool without saying why this one had to be gigantic. A procurement officer fielded a call from a curious supplier and said, deadpan, "Mr. Hughes prefers over-engineering." Everyone smiled at that. Hughes always preferred over-engineering. Complications were constant. The maritime community watches ships the way neighbors watch each other's lawns. Speculation bloomed in trade journals. Was this a vanity project, a tax play, a testbed for deepwater drilling? Competitors in offshore oil sniffed around and balked at the operating costs. Scientists pitched research they wanted to do aboard: chemistry, biology, geology, useful ballast for the story. The CIA vetted guests like bouncers. Fishing fleets and Soviet AGIs, intelligence trawlers, shadowed odd hulls by reflex. The cover had to read solid from binocular distance and in a bar argument. Meanwhile, the handling narrative had to be perfect. You don't drop anchor in 5,000 meters of water, you hover. So they let slip that the ship would use newly refined dynamic positioning to hold station over mining fields. You don't have cranes that can lift full loads in swell, you compensate. So they touted advanced heave control to protect delicate research equipment. You don't lower people into the abyss, you send tools. So they briefed autonomous collectors and showed safe, rounded shapes. There was one more layer: money. The price tag brushed $800 million, roughly $4.7 billion in today's dollars. That number leaked in whispers and made sense for a visionary billionaire chasing the next frontier. In truth, it underwrote the most elaborate salvage cover in history. On paper, it bought a shot at seafloor metals. In the compartmented ledger, it bought the chance to reach a graveyard that could rewrite files across the Pentagon. By the time Hughes Glomar Explorer slid into the water in 1974, the story had hardened into fact. A mining ship would head to a new claim and try techniques nobody had attempted at scale. Cameras clicked. News anchors used the word pioneering. The crew climbed aboard, some carrying one set of instructions, others another. Somewhere below the PR gloss, in a safe that would cross the Pacific, lay a grid of coordinates and a plan to lower a device through that moon pool, close its fingers around a submarine's broken bones, and bring them into the light without anyone on the horizon seeing a thing. Engineering the impossible, the capture vehicle and moon pool. The math came first, and it was ugly. At 16,000 feet, the pressure crushes at more than 7,000 pounds per square inch. Any joint that flexed wrong would fail. Any steel that behaved brittle would snap. The team sketched Clementon, the capture vehicle, like surgeons planning for a patient with shattered bones. The goal wasn't to clamp a perfect cylinder. It was to cradle a deformed hull without driving knives through it. They broke the problem into layers. On the surface sat a ship pretending to be a mine. Inside her, an inner platform, gimbaled, would float within the hull, isolating the heavy lift machinery from the sea's roll and pitch. Around that platform, 4 towering hydraulic cylinders stood like cathedral columns, each capable of inching millions of pounds up or down with the patience of a glacier. Above all of it, a pipe-handling derrick would add 60-foot joints one by one, sending a steel spine down through the moon pool into cold black water. The moon pool was the magic trick. Picture a giant rectangular throat running through the ship, gated at the bottom with doors that could close against the sea. Lower Clementon through it, open the gates, and you had a path to the abyss. Lift the load, close the gates again, pump the water out, and you'd have a hidden dry dock in the ship's belly. From a mile away, nothing would break the surface. No conning tower rising, no hull broaching. Just a quiet ship doing science while swallowing a secret. Clementon itself looked brutal and careful at once. A gantry frame, massive, with rows of fingers designed to flex and conform, not gouge. Each finger had pads, not points, meant to distribute load over plates that might be thinned by corrosion and trauma. The engineers argued about materials late into nights, high-strength steels that kept their toughness at low temperatures, alloys that wouldn't turn glassy under stress. Maraging steels offered strength, but demanded respect. Ductility mattered more than raw numbers if the load shifted unpredictable ways. Heave was the enemy you couldn't see. Even on a calm day, the Pacific heaves. A 3-mile-long pipe string can't act like a rigid rod. It wants to be a jump rope. So they built heave compensation that breathed with the ocean, hydraulic accumulators and control valves that read sensors and eased the load up and down to cancel the ship's motion. The gimbal took out roll and pitch within limits. The compensation took out the vertical dance. Together, they shaved the chaos down to numbers the steel could tolerate. On paper, the lifting capacity sat around 2,000 tons from the seafloor, within a heavy lift system designed to handle up to roughly 14 million pounds with heave compensation and gimbaled isolation. In practice, you derate for safety and unknowns. They ran scenarios. What if the capture fingers seat unevenly? What if a bulkhead collapses mid-lift? What if the bow peels away from the keel like a zipper? The answer was always the same. Move slow enough to feel the changes before they kill you, but not so slow that the ocean wears you out. The control room would become a metronome of pressure gauges and strain meters, every twitch telling a story about forces moving in metal you couldn't see. Dynamic positioning tied the whole dance to the seabed. No anchors, no leeway. Thrusters around the hull whispered and corrected, holding the ship over a point on the planet with the fidelity of a surveyor. Without that, the pipe string would sweep and torque, turning Clementine into a battering ram. With it, the descent became a straight fall through moving water, a pencil lowering into a throat. Fabrication introduced its own theatre. In guarded bays, welders stitched together the gimbal bearings, monstrous rings with tolerances you measure by feel, not ruler. The moon pool doors, each weighing more than some coastal ferries, hinged and slammed like vaults in testing. Technicians bled air out of hydraulic lines the way doctors bleed air out of arteries. Everything got shock absorbers and snubbers, sacrificial muscles designed to absorb mistakes before they cascaded. A burr left on a flange could become a crack under cyclic loading at depth. They treated burrs like enemies. There were rehearsals you'd never see on a brochure. In calm anchorages, the crew practiced adding pipe joints, making the couplings sing at the right torque, checking O-rings like talismans. In rougher water, they let the system move and watched the gimbal work, the platform staying eerily level while the ship rolled around it. The first time they cycled the heave compensation under load, a young engineer flinched at a sound only he heard. It was fine. He still didn't sleep that night. One design argument lasted weeks. Where to place crush blocks, sacrificial pads designed to deform first if the load spiked. Put them wrong and they'd mask a failure until too late. Put them right and they'd give operators time to back off before fingers ripped through hull plating like paper. The compromise was a map of weak links and feedback. If this strain gauge spikes, pause. If that microphone hears a frequency above a threshold, stop. If the load drifts more than a set percent, reverse a few feet and breathe. Radiation protocols layered on top. If Clementine brought up nuclear torpedoes or contamination, the moon pool had to be more than stealth. It had to be a quarantine. They planned for sealed containers, filters, dosimeters for everyone in that belly, scrubbers in the air systems, and a disposal plan nobody would discuss over coffee. The mining cover let them run drills without raising eyebrows. Hazmat suits look ordinary when you say chemistry. Meanwhile, across the table from engineers, the operations team built a choreography for silence. Satellite pass predictions, Soviet ship patterns, weather windows, a list of phrases that sounded like mining but meant lift, capture, stop. Compartmentation stayed brutal. Pipe handlers didn't need to know what Clementine would touch. Clementine's team didn't need to know which compartment might hold codes. Everyone needed to know the feel of a load going wrong before it announced itself with a sound no one forgets. When Hughes Glomar Explorer finally sat loaded and ready, the drawings had turned into metal, the what-ifs into procedures, and the moon pool into a promise. Whatever they took, the ocean would not see it, and neither would Soviet eyes on the horizon. They'd lower a hand into 3 miles of dark, close it around a broken thing, and try to lift the past into a room no wave could reach. Sailing into scrutiny, the voyage and Soviet eyes. They sailed like they belonged there.